was all in the above. That was the obvious one. Back now with Glenn Beck talking about his new book, An Inconvenient Book. You devote an entire chapter in this really to talk about you, your life, and the power of redemption. Redemption is a theme which comes up a lot with you.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, that's not, the chapter is not really about me. I hope it's not, but it is reflective of what I've learned through my life on, you know, bottoming out and being able to start over again. I mean, you know what's amazing, Anderson, is 8 years ago, I was a guy who worried about paying $790 or $695 a month for rent. I couldn't make my rent.
How many years?
8 years ago.
8 years ago.
8 years ago. Worried about that, living in a, you know, just a little apartment. I called it the United Nations because I was the only one that lived there that spoke English, and really struggled. This country is so amazing.
So what was the key? What was the key to turning it around?
Several keys, I think. One is just taking responsibility for yourself, taking responsibility for your mistakes, and owning up to them, and just, you know.
I mean, you do write in the book about a relationship you had with Jack Daniels.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a great... I believe I personally negatively impacted the state of Tennessee when I sobered up.
You actually, I think, had the stock price.
Yeah, the stock took a nosedive. They were like, no, Glenn's not drinking. Yeah, I actually was drinking quite a bit. I used to have 3 tumblers a night, about that big, just huge, full of Jack Daniels.
And you would drink that every night?
Every night.
Why? Throughout the day or just at night?
No, see, it was a clever trick I played on myself. I wasn't an alcoholic if I didn't drink before 5. So at 5 o'clock, I'm telling you, no matter where I was, I had to be at a place where I could get Jack Daniels at 5 o'clock.
So you never did the, well, it must be 5 o'clock somewhere in the world?
Nope. No, on the weekends, because it was just weekend, and, you know, people could do. So I played that little game.
And for how long? I mean, were you seriously drinking?
Probably 10 years, 8 years, something like that, seriously drinking. And my doctor, I went to a doctor, and he was doing all kinds of tests on me, and he came in and he said, he was looking at my liver test, and he said, what are you doing to your body? What are you putting in? How much are you drinking? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he
Really?
said,
You did not examine?
Oh, yeah. And he said, how much are you drinking? And I said, a couple of cocktails a night. And he said, here's your liver test. You'll be dead in 6 months if you don't stop.
Really?
And 8 months later, I was still drinking, but I was having significant blackouts. And I think my pivot point was sitting at the breakfast table with my daughters having breakfast. And I used to make up stories about Inky, Blinky, and Stinky, the 3 little mice, and I would tell them a different story every night. And the kids came down, and I was sitting at the table, and they came down, and they said, Dad, tell us the story about Inky, Blinky, and Stinky that you told us last night. And I couldn't remember it. And not only could I not remember it, I didn't even remember putting my children down. And it was the first and last time I lied to my children. And I looked at them and I said, you tell me. I want to see how much you were listening. You tell me the story. And I listened to them tell me a story that I had no recollection. And all the time they were telling it, I thought to myself, what are you doing? You're missing your children's childhood. Whole sections of your life gone forever. And that was my bottom. And
you got married again, and the success, I mean, how is your marriage successful now, whereas your first marriage wasn't? I mean, is it successful because your first marriage wasn't?
Well, you'd have to ask my wife if she would consider it successful. I would, but she, when I asked her to marry me, she was smart enough to know. She said, no. And I said, well, I mean, dig this. You could have a little slice of this every night if you wanted it. And she said, no. And I said, how come? She said, because we don't have God in our life. And I said, we got enough God in our life. And she said, we've got to be pursuing God together, otherwise we'll never make it. And I couldn't do organized religion. And
So you weren't religious?
No, I actually went to school for theology, and I mean, I was very religious. I just didn't believe in organized religion. I thought it was about power and manipulation and everything else. And I mean, you know, they're going to make up rules. I can do that in my underpants, sitting watching a football game on Sunday. You know, why not? And so didn't have an organized religion. But we went on a church tour because my wife said, your kids don't know anything about God. I said, of course we do. So I took them out for a night out at dinner and made a little list. And I said, hey, kids, what are we? What's our whole family based on? Thinking that they'd say God. And the first one they said was, well, we're based on fun. And then the next one was that we're based on happiness. And by the time, number 11, I still have the list, it's hanging in my house. Number 11, when I said, kids, really, honestly, I mean, what is it that, you know, we base our whole life on? What could it possibly be?
You were giving some
I'm trying to give
there.
some hints, and my daughter finally says, oh, I know. We're nonviolent.
Yeah. Wow.
Nonviolent.
Yes, that's interesting.
Yeah, and at that point, we hadn't yet killed our first man, so she was accurate. So we started doing the church tour, and, you know, that changed my life.
Faith.
That is faith. Adherence to something bigger than me. Buying in that I am going to bow to the will of something bigger than me. Just following the 10 Commandments faithfully every day changed my life. In 1999, November of 1999, I couldn't find a job. I was living in a horrible place. Life was a wreck. 2000, I got baptized, I got married, and here I am today, boring the snot out of America 5 days a week.
We'll be bored more in just a minute. Stay tuned.